Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today my husband Sush is joining me to do the genre book tag. This was created by Harriet, Rosie, and we were tagged to do this together by Andreea at Infinite Text. Prompt 1, your favorite genres. So I love so many different genres. I would say that SFF is probably my favorite genre, but I really love so many other things. I love nonfiction that is focused on biography or memoir or social justice. I love romance, I love poetry, I love literary fiction, I love historical fiction, I love children's picture books. I really love everything.
And on my side, I skew probably more towards science fiction and fantasy, and also atmospheric or psychological horror. I also wind up reading a fair amount of nonfiction books, which are kind of more cognition related or mental health related and that sort of thing. Sometimes also social dynamics issues.
Prompt 2, your least favorite genres. For me, this is probably anything that is graphic or violent. I just really don't like to have anything that is too gross or too upsetting in my reads. So in general, horror is not a genre that I read very much from. Although I will say that I do enjoy some atmospheric horror, some Gothic horror, things where it's more about a creepy atmosphere and not about anything very violent or very grotesque happening.
For me, it's not so much about least favorite genre or as much as it is least favorite aspects of genres that I actually like a lot. So as in things that are adjacent to what I really like are more likely to be things I dislike than things I don't care as much about. So on this end, for example, I'd mentioned that I read a fair amount of nonfiction. A lot of nonfiction I find to be too anecdotal or sometimes just outright pseudoscientific, and that really turns me off. On fiction side, I would say that things that are too dramatic, too fast-paced can also be a turnoff.
Yeah, same for me. Prompt 3, a genre you want to try. I think I want to try more mystery, especially cozy mystery. I really believe that I will absolutely adore reading mysteries and reading cozy mysteries just because I really adore cozy mystery TV series and I really enjoy a lot of mysteries that are embedded in other genres that I read, like SFF. So I bet I would really like this.
Makes sense. For me, it's literary fiction, and I think it's one of the things where if I start describing what I like about certain books, the kind of things that I describe about them does feel very much like literary fiction would be my jam. I just haven't done very much of it.
Prompt 4, a genre you don't want to try. For me, I think true crime is something I'm not so interested in, especially ones that are looking at violent true crime, so murders and things like that. It's everything that I don't like about violence, except that it's real. It actually has happened. So that's very upsetting and truly horrifying. Although I will say that I think I'm actually very interested in true crime that is about non-violent crime. So things like The Feather Thief I've heard of, and that sounds fascinating. So just any sort of violent true crime.
I think for me, I have two kinds of answers for this. One is one that I don't want to do anymore because I'm tired of it, which is the whole character growth fantasy kind of a thing. Like a shepherd finds out that he's the chosen one and needs to save the world from the Dark Lord kind of thing. I'm kind of done with it, and if a book feels like it might have elements of it, I'm turned off a little. This also holds for love triangles and things like that associated with things. I think I'm just saturated at this point of that. The other side of it is much more soapboxy, and that is things that feel preachy, things that feel like, and especially things which have real world religion or real world culture aspects of how something is the one true way, or moral teachings and that sort of a thing. So for example, I've never picked up the Narnia books and I don't intend to. And I want to basically also contrast this with, say, for example, some of Ted Chiang's works, which do have religious contemplation. And I think there's a huge difference between contemplation and messaging and moralizing. And I think for me, it's kind of like any notion of, is this going to preach a sermon to me? I don't want it. And since, again, this has a heavy amount of overlap with a lot of, say, management nonfiction that I wind up reading, those also turn me off in a big way. And it's like, this is how you shall do it. No, never mind.
Prompt 5, a genre you're not sure about. Along the same lines as everything I've said before, I think thrillers. Thrillers are something that kind of walks the line, where a lot of thrillers, I think the main goal is just to have a very tense atmosphere, which I'm totally fine with, but also they can get violent. So I think that it's something where I might like some thrillers, but I generally stay away from them because I'm just not sure where they're going to fall on that line.
And I think for me, it comes down to magical realism. It's something, again, that I'm interested in because I really like fantasy and I really like folk tales. And I feel like it should be a simple jump from there. But then I also worry because sometimes, for me, accepting something as a magic system is fine. Accepting something as a scientific reasoning, even if it's gobbledygook, is fine. But when sometimes the believability doesn't quite exist, and it's too close to real world, sometimes the uncanny valley effect can take place. So I'm not sure. I would like to try more and find out, but right now I'm not sure.
Prompt 6, a genre blend you love. I love SFF plus anything. I just really, really like to have some sort of fantastical or science fiction aspect to any other genre that I read, or to have some of these other genres mixed in. So, for example, I really like mystery SFF. Recently, I read Elatsoe by Darcie Littlebadger, which was very much a contemporary mystery with a lot of fantastical, magical elements. Another thing is like historical SFF. So, for example, a lot of steampunk does this. The Black God's Drums by Djèlí Clark is so great. It's kind of this alternate history, steampunk version of New Orleans, and it just says so much about history. So I really just love anything blended with SFF.
I think for me, I'll throw in horror into that mix. SFF and horror is a good, mix that I like. And a recent book that I read that I think does a really good job of that is The Hollow Places by Kingfisher. And other than that, I also like to, books that play around with setting a little bit, like modern Gothic horror, like Silvia Moreno-Garcia's Mexican Gothic really work for me. I'm going to throw in one more blend, which is not horror, which is memoir humors. And this really works for me typically. And a recent one I really liked was The Awkward Thoughts of W. Kamau Bell by W. Kamau Bell, who turns out is N.K. Jemisin's cousin. But it was a really fun read, for example.
Prompt 7, a genre-defying book. A good example of a genre-defying book that I read last year was This Place, 150 Years Retold by various authors. This is a collection of graphic short stories by Indigenous Canadian authors. And this is a graphic work, but it is also nonfiction. A lot of the stories in this are telling the story of a particular person in history, or they are historical fiction, so historical settings or famous events or famous people, but a historical, a fictionalized version of that. Some of them are fantastical. They include some magical or horror elements. Some of them are kind of memoir type things of people or their ancestors. It's just such a mixture of fiction and nonfiction. It's short stories. It's kind of got timelines as well for all of these events in Canadian law and history. It is such a fascinating book, but I did find that I had a hard time categorizing it on my spreadsheet because I did not know what genre it was.
And I think I will throw in The Deep by River Solomon. I think it's probably been my favorite book of the year, and probably more than that. But it's like, it has fantasy elements, it has horror elements, and it's like but then, and a number of other things as well. It's just that, how would you classify it? If you took a typical fantasy book and you put the deep next to it, would you say they are very similar? I feel like the deep breaks a bunch of molds. It tries to be a story in and of itself. And if I were, say, a bookshop, owner that was trying to categorize which shelf this belongs to, I would have a really tough time. So I think the deep for me.
Okay, so those are all of our answers to the genre book tag. We would like to tag Madelyn at MadeWithBooks, who I will link below. Madelyn, I would really love to see your answers to this if you feel like doing it. We had a fun time doing this, so thank you, Andreea, for tagging us. And if anybody else wants to do this or you've already done it, go ahead, let me know down below. I'd love to hear what you think.